everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be making a Dutch apple pie, and I figured with Thanksgiving coming up, this would be a perfect dessert. Last year for Thanksgiving, I made a pumpkin poke cake, and oh my goodness, it was so delicious. And if I don't forget, I'll put it in the description box so that you can check that out. But before I get into the video, I want to start something new here on my channel. I want to give a shout out to Beatriz. She recently made my carne en salsa rojo with rice. And by the way, that was my second video after I started my YouTube channel. That was my second video that I made. So thank you for going way back. And I'm so glad that you and your family enjoyed it. Also want to give a shout out to my daughter Angelica because she recently made my beef enchiladas with homemade sauce. And she said it was pretty damn good. Like, duh. So if you make any of my recipes, tag me on either Facebook or Instagram, and I will give you a shout out on my next video. Okay, so now let's get into making this delicious Dutch apple pie. Okay, so first of all, this recipe is so simple, very few ingredients. I mean, you probably have the majority of these ingredients at home, but I'm going to be using 5 Granny Smith apples. Now, if you have like a certain preference of apples that you like to use when it comes to desserts, and by all means go ahead and use the one you like, but I like Granny Smith. So I'm just going to peel the skin. I can never do it in one shot. You see, look at that. I don't know how people just keep going and going and doing it. Okay, so I pretty much peeled all of the apple, and then all I do is I just take it and I go around the core. I cut it. Okay, so I'm gonna slice them in kind of like thin slices, not too thick, but I mean not too thin, just like this. Just like that. Nothing too technical. So let me get all my apples sliced and into the bowl, and then I'll show you the other ingredients that you'll need. Okay, so it was getting kind of like full in this bowl, so I transferred it to a bigger bowl, but I have all 5 of my apples in here. Into this, I'm going to squeeze 1 lemon. And then I have 1/3 of a cup of white sugar, and 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar, 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. All I'm going to do now is just stir everything together. Okay, so the apples are pretty much coated all over, so now I'm going to start on the topping. But before I start on the topping, I am going to be putting my apples in a frozen pie crust. If you make homemade pie crust, go ahead and make the homemade, but you know, we got time for that. I'm just gonna add all my apple slices in here. Okay, so I just wanna show you, I already put the apples in here, and the pie crust is pretty full. And I have this much left over. So thankfully, the pie crust came with 2, so it looks like I'll be having 2 apple pies. So let me just clarify, depending on the size of your apples, you might just need 4. I mean, those were some pretty big Granny Smith apples, but you know, everything in Texas is big, so I should have known better. So I'm gonna get this in another pie crust, but let's work on this one first, okay? So now I'm gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna start working on the topping. Okay, so to my bowl here, I'm going to add in 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/3 of white sugar, white granulated sugar, and 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. And then here I have 1/2 cup of butter. I just took it out of the refrigerator because you want it cold. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it up into little cubes. Okay, so I just cut the butter just like that into little cubes. But let me mix this flour and sugar together. Now, if you want to do what I just did, you know, use the 5 apples, you can make 2 pies. Or if you just want to make one, cut it down. Or make sure they're like a decent sized apple, not no like extra large Granny Smith apple. Okay, so this is pretty much mixed. So now I'm going to add the cold butter in here. I just washed my hands. My hands are clean, per usual. Okay, so you can take a fork and just mash that butter into the flour, like crumble it in there. Okay, I pretty much like mashed it up, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take remove my rings. I'm gonna take my hands and just crumble it. So I want it like, you don't want it too like finely crumbled. You want some texture to it. So just get your clean hands in here and just mix it up. Okay, so now that I did this step, I have my oven preheated to 375. Okay, so now I'm just gonna put this on top of my pie. You can use a spoon or you can use your very clean hands and just sprinkle this right on top of your pie. Make sure to spread it all over, all the way out to the outer, evenly coated. Okay, so I evenly spread it all over my pie, and I have about that much left. I think I'm pretty good. So I'm going to put this on a tray. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna put this in the oven at 375, and you wanna place it on the lower rack, you know, on the bottom of the oven. And I'm gonna cook it for a good 50 to 60 minutes, or until I see that it has a nice golden brown color on it. And if you see that it's browning too quickly, just get some foil and loosely place it over your pie. And here it is. It cooked exactly for a good 50 minutes. So before you cut into it, you need to let it cool completely. So I will show you what it looks like once I cut into it. Okay, so here it is. Had to add some vanilla ice cream on top. I don't know if you can see. And I waited for an hour, and it's still pretty, hot. It smells delicious in here. Get some ice. I hope I don't burn my tongue. Here we go. Oh, look, you see the steam? Look at the steam. Look at that. Oh wait, is that the steam or is that the cold from the ice cream? I don't know. That was instant. That was instant. That flavor, instant, as soon as you put in your mouth. First of all, let me say, because I'm sure somebody's gonna be, oh, that has too much sugar. Oh, that looks too sweet. Perfect. Now, you know how I always say, everyone's oven is different. So like mine was good at 50. I mean, the pie crust was, it was starting to get like really dark, and so I think if it had went a little bit more, it would have been a little bit overcooked. But this, I wouldn't change a thing other than the quantity of apples. It calls for 5 to 6 cups. I figured more is better, so I used more apples. So 5 to 6 cups. But all that's gonna be in the description box, all the ingredients. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, share, make this for Thanksgiving, make this anytime you want dessert. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.